Hey everyone, it's good to see you. It's been a while. Happy New Year, happy 2026. As you can see, I'm in a new space. This is my home studio now. So today I wanted to talk about my dream camera. This is a camera I wanted to get my hands on ever since I knew it existed. I went to the Leica store in New York and I wanted to try and see if I could get my hands on this camera. Basically, they said, "You're gotta be kidding me. Of course we don't have that." And then at the end of my trip, I went one more time and they were like, "Actually, we do have it." And this is the Leica Q2 Monochrom Reporter edition. They only made 350 of these. This one's pretty special. It's monochrome, meaning it's black and white only. And it's the Reporter edition, meaning it's in this really nice olive drab green. So to give you a bit of a backstory, I was in New York in, I think it was 2021. And it was my second time in New York. And the first time I went, I shot a lot of black and white film on my rangefinder. And I really enjoyed it, and those are still some of my favorite photographs, which I'll show here. This time, I wanted to challenge myself and bring less gear. It was a trip where my friend was premiering his film at Tribeca, and so I wanted to just support him, not make it such a photocentric trip, which it usually becomes, but I wanted to just bring one camera and one lens, and that's exactly why I bought this. This is the Leica Q Type 116, which is the original, in this really nice silver finish. But I typically use this camera in the monochrome mode. Basically, it's a color camera. It's a normal, digital camera, 24 megapixel camera from 2015. But I would have the viewfinder show me black and white, and I would also shoot in JPEG and RAW. So what I would like to do is when I was on my phone, I could just transfer the black and white files over, and I could, basically see what I got in black and white first. And so one of the things that I've been wanting to do is to shoot in black and white, because it's a different process when you're composing in black and white, looking at tones and textures in black and white, versus if you're shooting for color, rather if you're shooting in color and then converting into black and white. It's a very different process, very different experience, and it's less intentional. And I think that's really why these monochrome cameras are so sought after. Even talking to a lot of other photographers like Chris Nichols, for example.
I do like the Q, the Q2, the Q3. I mean, I played with those, I enjoyed them when I reviewed them, but I wouldn't buy one. So really the camera where I'm like, that's one that I would covet and own would be the M11 monochrome. I took that to Montana. I love the photos out of it, the beautiful black and white, and it kind of gave me the experience like I started with on the FE, where I've got a black and white camera experience, darkroom, but without having to have the darkroom.
He doesn't love the Leica ecosystem, but the one camera he would choose would be a monochrome. It's a totally different experience in your shooting. With going out there and creating content and posting to social media, everything's about fastest and latest, and I think that's why so many of us are gravitating towards shooting film again. Part of it is just to slow down and have that more tangible experience with photography. And this is kind of that in-between where you get the digital conveniences of having your photos right away. You can, basically preview what you're doing in the camera through the live view. You can actually see in black and white now. It's just, everything that we've wanted in the film days is kind of in this situation here, but it comes at a great cost. These are not cheap cameras. They cost a lot because they are made in shorter supply. And it's not as simple as, shooting a digital camera and then switching it into black and white. There's an actual hardware difference. Basically, every digital camera out there that's not monochrome only has a color filter in front of the sensor. Basically, there's filters in front of the pixels that are telling if it's RGB, and then using software, it's figuring out how much light is coming through and what color that is, and then piecing it all together in real time. Without that filter array in front of the sensor, you have actually more light hitting the sensor and more resolution. So given this is a 46 megapixel camera, you're getting more resolution out of this than a normal Q2. With the benefits of not having that filter in front of the sensor, you also have unbelievable low light capabilities. This is probably one of the best cameras out there for low light. I was shooting at 25,000 ISO and it just looks so clean. The only downside to this particular camera is with the Q system is that the lens doesn't come off. So if you're thinking about buying a Q2 monochrome, You have to love 28 mil. You have to be comfortable getting really close. You know, if it's street photography that you're looking for one of these for, you're getting really close to your subject, and you have to be comfortable with that, and your subject has to be comfortable with you. So just keep that in mind. If you're into the more of a 50 millimeter range, then the Q3 43 is more in your range there. I think it's for the photographer who already has, you know, another camera that is their main, you know, everyday carry, and they want something that gives them, you know, a different feel. You know, back in the day, if you had a black and white camera, some of us would have a color camera as well. So you'd have two different film bodies with two different stocks. And now you kind of have that same fun in it. You can carry, I wouldn't carry these two cameras around if I wasn't doing a review, but I could carry this and my SL. I could basically have two different stocks. And you know, this would be the camera I grab when I know that there's a shot that is perfect for black and white. And then maybe the cover my ass shot with the SL, I can basically just do anything, since that's more of a workhorse camera anyways. These are extremely special cameras. They're not for everyone, and that's probably why most people don't get it. But once you experience it and play with it and get to see the files and work up the files, you either love it or you don't. And I was talking to one of my friends who owns the Q3 Monochrom, and he prefers his Hasselblad and GFX medium format systems more than the black and whites that he's getting out of the Q3, even when he converts the medium format files into black and white. But you know, that's his style. He likes more of that dynamic range. He wants that ability to pull the highlights back, because that is one place where this camera doesn't have that same flexibility as a digital camera in color switching it into black and white. Because one of the benefits of having that filter array in front of the sensor is, let's say you blow out the blues, for example, you might still have some data in the reds. So you can pull back more data from different pixels, if that makes sense, different color channels. So some people prefer, you know, having a color camera that can shoot black and white, and then you can change just the blue channels or just the red channels or just the green channels, where this, it's on or off. It's very much 1 or 0 and anything in between. So it's a totally different way of seeing things, which I really appreciate. And huge shout out to my friend Shub for lending me this camera. I'm so grateful that you let me use this camera and trust me with it. So where am I with the monochrome, and what would I recommend some of you to do is to consider shooting film. I feel like going with something that allows me to put black and white film in my camera. Right now I have Ilford 3200 Delta in here. When I first got this camera, my thinking was that I would put black and white film in here pretty exclusively, but I still have the ability to switch it out. In a way, you know, something that Takakayo or Big Head Tacos talks about is shooting film is kind of like having the ability to change your sensors. It's, you know, every time you put in a new roll, you're choosing, you know, the characteristics of that film. It could be more contrasty, it could have, you know, more dynamic range, or you know, more of a grain structure or whatnot, right? But I feel like for me, this is a better combination, having these two in my arsenal. For me, I'm thinking about how much film I can buy and process and scan with the difference in cost. This is like years worth of film in the difference, right? So for me, it's really hard to justify something like this as anything beyond a very, very nice camera that I really enjoyed using, but it's a bit of a liability to carry around. For those of you who do this for a living, it really has to make sense. It's a tool. But if it's even just a hobby, most of us try to, you know, take care of our gear and, you know, potentially hold on to that resale value. And, you know, I'm somebody who holds on to all my boxes, for example, but, you know, we think about what these things are worth, because, you know, at the end of the day, we want to be able to continue shooting. And, you know, this camera I bought secondhand. Of course, this one I bought secondhand too, but I could basically sell this tomorrow for the same price that I bought it for. In a way, that's where some people think, yes, Leicas are very expensive, but how many camera brands can you use for 4 years and sell back for the same price that you bought it for? There's not that many. So in a way, you know, it's kind of like a rental that's very inexpensive, because, you know, I've shot anything from a Nikon, a Sony, and so on, to these, and it's a different experience. You kind of just got to play with it and see if it's something for you. These are not the best cameras on paper, on specs, and I think that's where a lot of people don't understand, you know, why would you spend that much money on an inferior camera? But, you know, this camera has no autofocus, no light meter, there's no battery in it. If I'm at f11 and it's a sunny day, I can basically just set it to zone focus. I don't even have to put it up to my eye and I know that it's in focus. To me, that's the fastest focusing system there is. And not having a light meter, well, you have your phone. You can buy a light meter if you want. But what it does is it trains you to see light in a different way. You can walk into a subway station and be like, oh, this is, you know, f11 at 1/15 of a second. And you can know that that's what you're working with, right? You can't really get that with a digital camera in the same way when you're relying on everything to just do it for you. The fact that we have auto mode is great for capturing things quickly, you know, aperture priority, ISO, auto. It's like, these are fantastic features to have for a working photographer. But when we want to really be more intentional and get more out of photography, it's kind of why these things exist. And that's why Leica is so popular for those who get it. I feel like a camera has to fit your style, you know, in a way. It has to fit your lifestyle. It has to fit your aesthetic. It has to fit your style of photography, ultimately. The speed at which you want to work, the types of photography you want to make, the types of people you want to work with. I feel like that's where these cameras stand out from a lot of other brands. There's more of a statement about these, and, you know, take it for what it is. It can be a bad thing, it can be a good thing. But I think having a camera that you can comfortably use all the time in pretty much any situation you find yourself in is extremely important. And that's where this camera has stuck with me for so long. I've had it for quite a while now. I think I bought it pre-pandemic, and I've traveled the world with it. I usually travel with multiple cameras with me, but I've gone on a couple occasions, once to London and once to New York, as I mentioned, with just this one camera. And it's been so fun to just see, you know, everything in 28. And I don't like to crop, so I try to, you know, keep things to 28 and, you know, have that be a challenge, have that be a point of creative constraint. And that's kind of where I feel like you want these tools to be enabling what you're out there for. You're not trying to be held back by them. And so, you know, I think the truth is, like, this is such a dream camera. It's, I think, probably best to stay a dream camera.